Yes, I know about the watermark. Some circumstances happened and now I'm stuck using KineMaster for the time being. And I apologize. I'll try to figure out how to resolve this as fast as I can. However, I still feel like it's worth making commentaries, so let's cover Wade.
With this segment, Oliver is also trying to get people to act in a certain way after the election. I'll be looking at his arguments, but keep this question in mind. What does he want people to do?
Yeah, what does the guy who's completely open about his biases want people to do? The world may never know. Seriously, it's not like John pretends that he's neutral. He's openly said Last Week Tonight has a viewpoint before.
And there is nothing inherently wrong with media that has a viewpoint. This show has a viewpoint. We fact-check everything we say, but I don't pretend to be neutral on things like criminal justice reform. I'm for it. Coldplay, I'm against it. Or DeWalt's ladders. They're a seamless blend of style and performance. Walking up one is like ascending to heaven on a golden cloud. I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just a fan.
So what exactly is the point of discussing Oliver's biases as if this is anything resembling a revelation?
Oliver starts off with his predictions.
If Trump loses, he will not concede gracefully. He's already said he will only accept the results if it's a fair and legal and good election. And he's been laying the groundwork to cry foul if he loses.
So if Trump loses, he will not concede gracefully, which is fair. I'm not sure Trump has ever done anything gracefully. The Democrats, on the other hand, are the most graceful people on the planet. They're like a swan crossed with a flamingo, crossed with Kristi Yamaguchi.
When did Oliver say Democrats were better at this than Republicans? The only point that was made was that Trump wasn't one thing, not that Democrats are that thing. You're extrapolating something that wasn't there.
Oliver laments how far we've fallen since the 70s, when right-wing politicians would just go away when they were told.
When the Watergate tapes came out, Nixon had to resign in disgrace. If that happened today, he'd probably be able to release them all as an audiobook and win a Grammy.
I mean, yeah, politicians in representative democracies are supposed to go away if they're not wanted in politics anymore. You make this sound as if Oliver's being unreasonable by requesting this when he's simply not.
But then we get to the real crux of his argument, that the 2020 election was perfect.
And all this happened despite a joint statement from federal election infrastructure officials calling it the most secure election in American history.
You have arguments and evidence? Well, that's too bad, because I have a letter from a bunch of smarties, just like the 51 intelligence officials who said that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation.
And what exactly are these facts and evidence Wade has? He doesn't show them. Nor does he show evidence the Hunter Biden laptop story wasn't Russian disinformation, for that matter. Just saying, Wade, if you want to make the point that the experts are wrong, you should actually make that point with evidence, especially if you specifically use the word evidence in your claim.
It's crazy how many of the left's arguments reduce to the experts say shut up.
As opposed to Wade's arguments, which, as just established, come down to I have evidence I'm not going to show you. Shut up.
But the real crazy people are the ones who think that illegals are voting.
Skipping the fact that this theory is caked in racism, how does it even make sense? You really think people would flee their homes, travel under dangerous conditions to enter this country just to vote?
Of course, nobody's saying they came here just to vote. They've got other stuff to do.
They're eating the dogs.
But the fact is that the regime has been giving illegals preloaded debit cards.
Because how else will Democrats hold on to New York, one of the most democratic states in the country?
Flying them into swing states and suing to prevent non-citizens from being removed from voter rolls.
The headline specifically notes why that is. The DOJ is alleging that citizens are also a victim of these purges. To quote from the article, the lawsuit alleged that voters were identified as non-citizens even if they previously submitted registration forms that affirmed their citizenship, and that the comparison program doesn't verify the accuracy of the responses. Once a registration is flagged, local registers have no discretion to decline to notify the voter about their pending cancellation, even when the registrar has reason to believe the voter is a United States citizen, the lawsuit said.
Oliver is also worried that poll workers are having to count paper ballots because,
as experts have explained, that has the potential to cause chaos.
Asking people to count pieces of paper will cause chaos, which of course is the opposite of cool.
Yeah, Oliver's point more had to do with the time limit they were given put together with the small number of people who are required to count the ballots. It had nothing to do with counting paper ballots inherently. Here's the clip.
But But in August and September, incredibly late in this election cycle, the board passed a bunch of new rules that will make it much easier to sow doubt in the certification process. One of them requires a full hand count of ballots in each precinct to take place either the night of the election or the next day, and which must be done by just 3 individuals per precinct, which might sound reasonable to you, but as experts have explained, that has the potential to cause chaos.
When they launched the investigation into Russia's role in the 2016 election, John Oliver didn't want to minimize those concerns.
It felt like there simply could not be a bigger story than that. And that was a huge deal, which is also a massive development. And that is also potentially enormous because it feels like a pretty big deal. You would almost have to be trying really hard not to see this as a big deal.
And that was just in his first full segment about it. His second one was about why the attempts to shut down the Mueller investigation were all driven by dubious motives, but that any reasonable person would want a full, thorough investigation.
The question, did a hostile foreign government try to manipulate our election, is something any reasonable person should want answered quickly. And yet, an increasing number of Americans seem to want the investigation to stop.
I'm sorry, how is this different exactly? Oliver never said he was against investigating the 2020 election after all. I mean, he cited an investigation of it, so it's not as if the concept inherently bothers him. And in both cases, he's deferring to expert opinions, or at least in the case of the Mueller report, saying he would like the experts to look into them. That's not hypocrisy, that's completely consistent. Anyway, final thoughts, I think this counts as a Halloween special. Good night and good luck.